Hello, today's webinar will be on how to set up Qsync for Qsales. Qsync, for those not familiar, is the nightly application that runs the updates, process the updates between QuickBooks and the data that you see within ACT as part of Qsales. So let's get started. So we're going to go to the download site, and that is actforwork.com. And we're going to scroll down to Qsales and then 64-bit. Now, this is the directory for all of the installers and the manuals for Qsales version 13 or later. Now, it says 64-bit, but please be mindful that that just simply means it works in 64-bit as well as 32-bit and actually supports back to ACT version 19. But let's get started. So you can see the two manuals here, how to install the Qsales API and plugin, as well as the user manual. Now, we're not going to do the installation because the API is required to be installed in advance of Qsync, and we've already covered the installation and configuration of the API in a separate video. And as you can see, it's running down here. We'll be bringing that up shortly. So this will be the file that installs Qsync. So because the API is already installed, it's installed. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to launch it and show you how to configure it so it runs every night. Okay. Just a reminder, there is the API. So what we're going to do is we're going to click here, and we see Qsync here. This is the application that is installed, or if you don't have an operating system, that puts it up at the top of the start bar. Then you're going to scroll down to the program group, Qsales for ACT, and launch it from here. Okay, so this is the standard Qsync configuration utility. There's nothing configured here. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a configuration, and then we're going to schedule it. So configuration basically means a connection to the ACT database and to the API. There's no longer a connection to QuickBooks directly because both Qsales and Qsync connect to the API, which in turn connects to ACT. So that's one of the really nice features of version 13 and later. So let's click on Add, and we're going to click on Browse to find our database, our ACT database. Here we are. I'm going to type in admin, and for this demo database, we do not have a password. So now we're going, it says the Qsales for ACT API. You'll see there's no information for QuickBooks because the QuickBooks file is already open here and already configured and connected through the API. So all we need is to just bring up the API. And the reason we need to bring it up is because we need the address. So in this case, we're using the personal API. So I'm going to copy this, paste it in here, and we have the password as well. Now, if you don't know the password, you will have to get that from your setup. It's in the either the Qsales admin setup or the API setup. We're not covering that as part of this video. So now we're going to type in the password that we have. Okay, now we go through the sync options. Now remember, these are all the checkbox transaction types here that we're going to be syncing each night. And I prefer to never, more is more. I prefer if I can trim off anything, I'm going to trim off non-posting transactions. So POs, purchase orders, and estimates do not have any posting implications. Okay, they don't contribute to balances. They don't contribute to income or expenses. So I like to clear them out. Create from QuickBooks. Now what this checkbox will provide, and everything else you can just leave or clear as needed, and leave 30 days up there as the default. Create customers, vendors from QuickBooks. What this means is that if you add people, whether customers or vendors, to QuickBooks without adding them to ACT, Qsync will catch that and add them to ACT through the Qsync process. Now, if you scroll up to here, include pending invoices in sales totals. For the same reason I cleared these, I'm not going to clear that, or I am going to clear that because I don't want to have pending transactions which are not postable added there. Now, auto link companies to contacts. This is my personal preference. I prefer to have one contact per company, but if you want to have them all, okay, then you can do that. Now, enable job linking. If you're not using jobs, we personally don't use jobs. Jobs are basically like a sub entity under customers, and jobs are useful when you're isolating revenue and expenses as part of a specific job under a customer. Very popular with building maintenance and people that do specific projects, different projects with customers, and they want to be able to do reporting on specific jobs as opposed to having all the transactions rolling up to the parent customer. So you can use this based on your need. If you're not using it, then I don't use it internally, so we're going to clear that. We're going to select income taxes, of course. Update the contact fields. This is what's under QB data. We're going to cover that in a separate video, but there's a QB data summary tab. We're going to want to update those. Payments, of course, because obviously we've got a feature within Qsales that covers balances, and if you don't record the payments, then obviously the balances will not be reflected. Now, overwrite ACT products with QB products. You can put this in. I recommend it because if you add a product in to QuickBooks, you want to make sure that it is captured, okay? Otherwise, if you just assume it is and it's not there, then you won't be able to process a transaction correctly. Now, with that, when I click on save, it's going to flash over here and verify the information. Everything is saved. So now I'm able to click on exit and it comes up over here, okay? So now that we've got this connection configured, we have to configure the actual scheduling, okay? So we're going to click on settings and we're going to set the time. So the time, and we're going to start the service here. Now you'll see the time is 5 p.m. I recommend it running a little bit later. It's going to be very individualized based on the hours of your business. So you want to do it afterwards. The first transaction is going to be the one that really takes all the time. That can take 8 or 9 hours. The rest are going to be incremental, so it won't take nearly as much time, but still run it after hours because it will create extra overhead. Now, in this case, we've already installed the service. If you haven't installed the service, then you'll see a few of these buttons grayed out and you'll have to install it. And you just click here, that will install it. And then now you go to the part where you either start or stop the service. In such cases where you're going in and checking the settings for a service, see what the status is, then this is useful to either restart or refresh. But in this case, we've already got it installed and we're going to click on start. Now, this is going to make sure that you've got the QuickBooks open, okay, which actually really isn't required anymore because it's connected through the API, but because the personal API requires it to be open, it's kind of a non-issue. So I'm going to click on here. Now you see this little screen that flashes up? That was a configuration that we set up so that we can get past the issue of the user knowing their local admin credentials. This was something that was a common call driver, and we couldn't really help them because we don't have visibility on people's local admin settings. So that little flashing screen there was a utility that we've run in the background to solve that problem. Now, you'll see configure email error reporting. This is where you can set up email notifications and always email even without errors. And what that basically means is you're going to get a report positively or negatively based regardless of the outcome, okay? So this is where you'll put in your information, supports SSL, requires login, do all of that. Obviously, this is individualized and you can copy or blind copy anyone you wish for these notifications. Okay, now when I click on save, that is done. So you've got the this particular configuration utility running, okay, the service is running, and now what we've done is if you're concerned that maybe it's not going to run on time, this is the first time that you're doing it, then you can actually do a run now, okay? And that will initiate that will bypass the scheduling of it, and you'll be able to run that utility right now. Now, if you're concerned that maybe it didn't run and you want to check the logs, then you can click here. This pops up here and it will show you all the logs, and you can actually check here, drill into the log settings for that day. As you can see here, they're all named based on the date. Okay, and now I'm going to just double check to see that everything is running, because this is a service. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the Windows key and R, and I'm going to type in services.msc, and I'm going to hit Q, scroll down, and there it is. The Qsync service is running. So with that, with the configurations here, and because I was able to save it, I know that all the credentials for both the API and the ACT database were accurate, and I could see the service running, and I know that I've set up the preferences fine. This is now running. You can click on exit, and you don't have to worry like the API. If you click on exit, that will actually stop it. But now that it's running as a service, it will run, and you will get your nightly updates as you would expect. And that's it. So thank you very much for joining us. This was a review on Qsync, the nightly updater for Qsales.